She's one of tens of thousands of Kurds in Syria now running for their lives.
That report from the BBC's Martin Patience on the Turkish-Syrian border. And earlier MP Ahmet Berat Çonkar of Turkey's governing AK Party came into the studio. He's in London to attend a meeting of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. His reaction to the US Defence Secretary's request to Turkey to stop the offensive in northern Syria.
I think the process has already shown us that Turkey has to make this operation and finalize this operation. Otherwise, it hasn't been possible to find a solution together with our allies, because we tried this for a very long time to make this a safe zone possible, but it hasn't been possible to work with our allies to achieve this end. So Turkey has to continue this operation, and we have very clearly set targets in this operation. And achieving this target is important for Turkey as well as the United States and our other allies, because we are trying to bring safety, security to this region, and basically resettlement chance for the Syrian refugees will be opened with the end of this operation.
Are you surprised, though, at the hostility of Western governments to what Turkey is doing? Threats in the US Congress to impose sanctions, a number of European countries cutting off arms supplies to Turkey. Did you hear those hostile voices in your NATO parliamentary meeting today?
First of all, I would say that I am very much surprised and shocked by the level of reaction from some of the countries. But in the NATO meeting, we just had a very normal conversation. They just wanted to learn more about our operation. So there was not any problem regarding that. But when you look at the reactions in the media, I would say that some of those reactions are totally out of reality, because Turkey is fighting against a terrorist group which has been a threat for more than 30 years to Turkey. Basically, we are expecting support from our allies in NATO. We have been in NATO for more than 65 years, shoulder to shoulder with our allies. And this is the day Turkey needs the support of its NATO allies.
But at the very least, it must tell you that you haven't been able to make your case as forcefully as you might have wished. You say the YPG is a terrorist group, and yet you've provided no evidence of the way in which they have crossed over into Turkey to carry out terrorist acts. Your declaration is based simply on the fact that you say they have an alliance with the PKK, which you regard and many other countries regard as a terrorist group. And can you not understand why Western countries see the YPG in a very different light as a fighting force that played a central role in the defeat of Islamic State?
I can't understand this because, for example, we have lived the Ankara bombings, twin bombings with suicide car bombings in Ankara.
Carried out by the PKK?
No, it was done through the support of YPG. The material, the personnel was basically smuggled from Syrian wing of PKK into Turkey. This communication, logistics, the same leadership. We cannot separate PKK's activities from YPG's activities because PKK is openly declaring that they are basically the mother organization of YPG in Syria. And when they took Raqqa, you have seen the Öcalan pictures everywhere. And there was
being the leader of the PKK.
Yeah, the leader of the PKK. So everybody very well knows that this organization is connected to each other. But it is very difficult for me to understand why we cannot make this case understood by our partners.
Maybe it's because of what Turkey did in Afrin in Syria last year. You went into Afrin with very similar objectives to eliminate the YPG. But as a result, hundreds of thousands of Syrian Kurds were displaced. They've been replaced by Arabs in that region. And it looks very much as if what Turkey carried out there was ethnic cleansing, and that is what it is intending to do again in northeast Syria with this current offensive.
In Afrin operation, basically, Turkey conducted an operation targeting the terrorist elements, the fighting elements.
But tens of thousands of Kurdish civilians fled. They haven't come back, and they've been replaced by Arabs in their own homes.
What we have experienced in this region is this. PKK is a Marxist-Leninist organization which forces its ideology to Kurds, Turkmens, Christians, whoever lives there. If you do not buy into their ideology, they basically eliminate you. They are the ones who made the ethnic cleansing. They changed the demographics in northern Syria. In Afrin, maybe some families or relatives of the PKK fighters or YPG fighters may have left. But we can make sure that the people who return to their homes basically are safe and secure and getting all the services through the activities of the Turkish government.
The United Nations says that 100,000 civilians have already fled the offensive in northeast Syria. Are they going to be allowed to come home?
Of course, of course.
But you're going to bring in, you say, hundreds of thousands of Syrian refugees from another part of Syria and put them in that area where Kurds live.
We are talking about the region. It's a very large area, and most of the people who were driven from their homes, Arabs, Turkmens or Kurds, are now taking refuge in Turkey. You know very well that we have 350,000 Kurdish, Yazidis, Kurds, taking still refuge in Turkey, and they are not returning back to YPG-controlled areas. We are still supporting them. We are looking after them. So basically, nobody wants to live in an area which is controlled or run by a terrorist organization. In Afrin, in the Elbab, in all the areas that Turkey cleared from terrorism, now there is life going on. There is services going on, and everything is fine. So I think it's going to happen in the same way in the east of the river as well.
That was AK Party MP and Deputy Head of the Turkish delegation to NATO Parliamentary Assembly, Ahmet Berat Çonkar. And he was defending the Turkish offensive in northeast Syria, which the United Nations said